Well, guys, I've got a treat for you tonight. I'm going to show you how I edit photos. It's going to be really quick. You might not catch it all, but it's going to be really interesting. I will not only show you how I edit photos, but I'll show you how I do photo artwork as well. It's kind of taking it to an extreme, but I'll show you both of those. So let's get started. The first image I have here, I've actually got this in what they call Fast Raw Viewer. It's just a place where I can actually view all the photos I took real quickly. This image right here is the one I want to work with. And I did, in fact, we're going to open this in Photoshop, but I did, in fact, shoot this in RAW format. What that means is RAW gives you more data, wider range of white to dark. It'll capture all that stuff that would normally get knocked out if you're just shooting like a JPEG. You know, you lose some whites, you may lose some darks. This one keeps it all there. So I'll show you that really quickly. This is what we call RAW or Camera Raw. And what Camera Raw does is uses all that data. If you look up here, this is data from black to mid-black to grays to mid-white and to white. So you can see all the information that's there. It's kept most of that information, even the stuff down in the black. So we're going to use this to expand that light to see what's there. There's a lot there. See, that bird's actually almost perfect exposure right there. But what I want to do is I want to just get this in this range. See, I'm looking at all this information, and I'm bouncing it back and forth to where all that information is structured right in that zone, and I'm not losing stuff. I could actually bring some of the blacks back if I wanted, probably. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we're good. So now we got that image, and I'm not going to tell you everything I'm doing here, but first thing we do is open it in Photoshop, and I have a program. It's actually, I put it in as a filter now, and if you look in here, we go in close. Let's go real close. You can see a lot of grain. If I start boosting this light up and making this exposure right, this grain is going to look horrible. So the first thing I want to do is open my plugins or filters, go down to Topaz Lab. That's a program that I have purchased so that I can actually eliminate all that grain. And let's remove, I've got a couple of filters that I've added to here already. Let's boost this up to where we can see all that grain that we got going on there. There's the grain. That's the before. That's the after. We're going to add in a remove noise tool, and watch this. It is gone. And we'll boost it up just a little bit. That's gone. Let's zoom out the image a little bit. You can see that that was eliminating that grain real good. Now we're going to move up here and add sharpen. And that's going to sharpen this stuff. I feel like that's a little much. If we go zooming in here, you can see it's sharpening over this original image, sharpening that. It was sharpening too much. All right, close that, save that back with all those different things that we put on there for sharpening and removal of the noise, and it's saving it back into Photoshop where we can work on it. Now we've got a really good image here. First thing I want to do, let's just crop that thing out. All right, I want to crop it down to where I think I want it for the final image, because I don't want to be using more data than I really want. And I think that's probably going to be a good place right there. And double click on that, and we've got our image. Now, what I want to do is I want to separate the background from the foreground. In order to do that, let's zoom in a little bit here. I'm going to use my generative, no, actually, I'm in the wrong tool. Click this so I can have options down here. Select subject. I click select subject, and it has my subject. Now I want to copy that and paste it over top the background. So Command C to copy, Command V to paste, and now there it is. It is above the background you see here. But because I'm going to use the background a little bit later, I want to do some stuff to take care of that. And I know in an image like this, it's really, really hard to get a good selection because there's going to be such a huge contrast of what I had before as opposed to now. So let's go looking in here. I'm going to turn that off. Let's look in. All right, the edges look good. Turn that background on. Hey, this is not a bad selection. So what I'm going to do is then work on that bird alone. So I clicked on that layer right down here. Let's go up to my filters, and we're going to go down to Camera Raw Filter. Basically, that's going to access all that raw information that was in the original file and let us do pretty much what we would have done before we opened the image, and we're going to do it now. So here we go. Let's change that exposure, and suddenly, look there. There's all that information that wasn't there before. It is now. So I'm bringing it up to where I think it's kind of good. And this goes back to that over-under thing that I do. I'm taking the exposure here, and I go up, over, and back and forth to where I come right back, and that's where I want to be. Doing that, more and less and coming back a little bit, get you right to where you need to be, and do it quickly. That way you don't have the chance to analyze and overanalyze things. So we'll click that. It's okay now. And in this image, I noticed there's one thing that I don't like. When I did that, I boosted up the edge. There's some artifacting there on the edge. So I'm going to make sure I'm clicked on the bird image. We're going to load his selection. And then you can see the lasso there. And I'm just going to invert that selection. I want to delete the outside part. So we'll invert the selection so it's not selecting the bird. It is actually selecting all the area around here. And when I do that, it's still at the same edge, but I'm going to expand that. So it goes to select, modify. We're going to expand that selection. Let's just do maybe, 5 is probably good. And you see it jumped. It went from right here to in here. And if I hit delete, that is gone. Now I do know that there's black behind that. And the reason there's black behind that is because this background image is still there. See that background image? So what I want to do is get back to the bird. I've deselected this, so there's no selections on there at all. I'm going to select the bird. Load selection. All right. Then I'm going to expand it to go beyond where that black in the background is. We'll expand it by, let's say, 11 pixels. All right. I want to go in and just double check. Yeah, it's on the outer edge of the black. Now I'm going to turn the foreground bird off, and we only have the background showing up here. And when we do that, we can actually go down here to remove. Now we're going to let AI do its work. It's going to be thinking, looking, and saying, what would be behind that bird if we remove the bird from the image? And there it is. I don't really care about that part of it, because the only reason I did that is to generate this patch. You see that patch there? Now I can go over like that and blend these, like make them one layer, merge the layers, and I put the bird back over, and I don't see all that extra crap there, right? The only reason I really did that is so when I'm working with the two, I have a clean outline of the bird. The edges of the bird are really good. And let's say if I wanted to blur that background. Let's say, you've got a lens that's not really, it's not that expensive. You're going to have a lot of focus from foreground to background. $13,000 lens is going to give that background a lot more of a blurred look. So I want that. I know I could get it in reality if I paid more money. So it's okay for me to go there, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go in here. I've got the background image selected and go to Gaussian blur. And see, I could blur it a ton. I'd go like that and you wouldn't see anything there. But I'm going to go back here and right maybe about there would be good. That's what you would get with a $13,000 lens. So there's the after. There's the before. Let's redo that because I kind of like that Gaussian blur. And the only other thing that I'm noticing just for this situation that I really don't like, I want you to see a really clean image in the end. So we'll call this photo art rather than actual photo. I'm going to remove that right there. I'm just going to use AI to remove that. Let it do its thing. It'll be gone. That way when I do the rest of this, it'll show you what it should look like if you just had a great image and you were doing the right things. Okay, we got that patch again. We're going to sandwich those images together, make them one, merge layers. All right, now we have the bird. The bird looks like he's shot in a studio because he's kind of blue. He has no color in the background at all, and we're going to add that to him. So make sure everything's deselected, click off there. We're going to go into image, adjustments, and down to color balance. Now the bird having blue does not look like he's been lit by the same scene, right? He's kind of needs to be orange. So I'm going to add in some red, a good amount of red and a good amount of yellow. Yeah, you'll probably think, wait, that's way too much. But for me right now, that looks okay, just for now. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in to adjust and take out some saturation. A lot of times when you overdo things, you can take it back with the saturation and it makes it really good. He now looks like he was lit by the same light. The only thing that I really don't like is that old fishy down there. he's got really, really glowing stuff, and it almost takes away from the entire image. So what I'm going to do is select that. Just do that, a little over selection there, and I'm going to blend so I don't have to worry about that too much. So we go up here and we're going to select and mask and do a soft edge on that. There we go. Come back and we're going to desaturate that particular color. So hue and saturation, I'm going to go to red as close as that I can get to the orange. And if I click on here, well, usually it auto selects, but I think I'm in the right zone. But what I'm going to do, this is the range it's selecting right now. That's really selected. This is the feathering right here on both sides. We're going to just move that a little farther to make sure we get the orange, and maybe a little farther. And now, I'll just turn off that lasso. You know, you won't be able to see it, but it's still just selecting that. And we'll just go over under on that, down to where we think we kind of like it, right about there maybe. So there's the before, there's the after. And if we go back out to the original image, and yeah, we're not going to do before and after, but it looks better. Now, there's some other things that bug me about this. I'm just going to select this right here and take away that orange. You know, little bitty things like this make a huge difference. It's kind of like I say, season your image. Little bitty things, little bitty flavors here and there add up over a period of time with lots of them to make a great image. It's not a huge adjustment that you need to make. So let's go back down here to image. Oh, no, we have to select it. Keep the hard edge off of that. So every time, go back here, feather the edging, and we're going to take down that saturation, hue and saturation. I'll just do that real quick. We'll do an overall because there we go. So let me zoom in there. And which do you like better? Orange under there, or kind of a muted tone? I like that right there, so we'll live with that. The only other thing I really notice is that the darks have a little too much saturation, and I don't like that. I like darks, the whites and the blacks, I like them to have more realistic color, not so saturated. They're naturally not so saturated anyhow, but I'm going to do it just a little bit more to complete the, I don't know, going overboard and making an image look really good. Feather that out. You probably won't even see the difference here, but like I said, just a little bit of these different changes really help. So I'm just going to reduce overall, get that back there. Okay, there's the before, there's the after. Not a huge difference, but I can tell you when you look at the before and the after of the original, it's going to be huge. Now, one other thing I want to do with this image is I'm going to, oh, you know what? Let me go back to explain something. When we do an exposure in the field, we're averaging. We're trying to get the best exposure for everything. But in that image, not every part of that image is going to be properly exposed. That's why I make the bird separate on its own background so that I can actually do things like select this area and brighten this up. If I wanted to, I could go in here and select that, go back and feather the edges, all right? And I could selectively, I'm going to turn the highlight out there, selectively push that up to make it brighter. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. Okay, let's get on the right layer. Get back on the bird. We're going to go back and adjust that. Now you can see when I push this up, the midtones and everything, it gets brighter. So I can selectively make the exposure perfect. I like it where it was, so I'm just going to leave it there. But the background could be better, right? I like the way it was so cool and golden out there that I want to push that up just a little bit in the saturation. So as long as I have deselected, go into image, adjust, go back into hue and saturation, I'm going to push it up just a tiny bit. Like I said, not too much on anything, just a bit. All right, there. And so almost the very last thing I'm going to do is two things. That's the way I get around the last thing. Two things. I'm going to do a circular selection here, start up here, come all the way across, down to here. All right, and then I'm going to feather that edge, and we're working on the background right now. So we feather it out, and I'm going to feather it a lot, like 500 and some pixels. Then, yeah, all right, there we go. Now it's selecting the background, and we're on the background. It's selecting the background inside now. I want it selecting outside, so I'm going to inverse that selection to there. I'm going to copy, Command C, and paste, Command V. Now I have that around the edges I can work with. And I'm going to lighten and darken that just to see what it would do. I know where I'm going to end up because I've done this before. If I lighten it up, there we are. If I darken it down, there we are. But you see, if we darken it too much, anytime you darken an image, it gets more saturation, which is sometimes too much. But knowing you could back that saturation off, look at it with giving eyes and say, you know what, I kind of like to be right about there, and we'll leave it like that. So I could come back in here, and we'll do this. We'll just take that saturation away real quick, just so it blends with the overall, the original, not just out here. So we're going to desaturate that, and you can see there is still darker like I made it originally, but it looks a whole lot better. So there's what was, and if I redo that, this is what it ends up at. Now, there are some things that I do that are very picky, I guess I would say. Like, anytime I feel like it looks like there's some dirt or something on the image, let's say, for instance, this, I'll go back in, get on that bird layer, and I'll just nip it, get it done. I use the, what is this called? Spot healing brush. And like areas like this, if I go up here, I'll reduce that brush size down. I can go in and take care of that entire area there. Eliminate, oops, that's not going to do it. Well, anyhow, you get the idea. I'm going to make that a little bigger again, right about like that. Get rid of this. I would normally just delete that area, but I'm just going to patch it really quick. Too big a brush again. Let's go back smaller. Delete that, delete that. These are all the things that kind of just look like specks of dust. And you wouldn't know it, but it really makes a huge difference. If I showed you before and after, it would be huge. Now, I did notice one other thing, and maybe that, let's just get rid of that. Right over here, I got some white that just looks out of place. Now, I'm getting way too picky, but I'm going to quickly get rid of that, and just so we can have a final image that just looks killer. So I'm on that bird layer right there. I went over and got my lasso tool. Let's just select it, and I'm doing a really rough job, guys. This is just because I'm trying to do it fast. And there we go. I want to feather that to match the blurry edges of the feathers. So we go in here to select and feather right about there. Hit OK. I'm going to hide that selection, hit delete, and there you go. So now we've got an even cleaner image. And there is one other thing I would love to do. Not only to just, right now you're seeing kind of what I saw. It was a beautiful image that I saw out there. But I'm going to do something I think will be even cooler. I'm going to select this entire area around here. I'm kind of wiggling around, just making it, I don't know, unrough or unsolid edging. And of course, before I do that, let's take these two layers, the background layers, and make them one, merge them together. And now I'm going to do a selection, select mask. We're going to feather that off a lot, probably about 500, about 500. All right, so now that has actually selected this area. I'm going to copy and paste, so we now have another area to work with. And I'm going to turn this into cool, almost like an art image. Go back up here, adjustments, down to curve, and I'm going to just take that down to this. Once again, I'm just doing the over-under. There we go. If I turn it off, that's what it used to be. And now, kind of a cool image, right? All right, very last thing I do, I'm just going to get my copy right here. Copy that. Oh, that was an image I did a while ago. You're seeing stuff you're not supposed to see. I always practice this before I actually show you what to do. Now, I just pasted that, but it's behind the bird, so I got to drag it over here. I will reduce the size of that copyright. And the other thing is it's kind of in the way, I feel. So what I'm going to do is just change the opacity down to right about there. And of course I could crop it just a tiny bit more. But there's the image. That is what we got as far as a final Let me change that so you can see it. And poof, that's it. All right, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. This is just kind of an example of what you can do, not always what I do, but you can take an image and return it back to what it's looked like when you actually experience that. And you can give it those qualities that, for whatever reason, disappeared when it went to the negative, or not in this case, but the camera. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of the week, and I will be back with more.